She does not appear in the daylight. She arrives in dreams you pretend not to remember. A woman with no face, only eyes that never blink. She waits in doorways that never open, speaks through the mouths of other women, but never calls herself by name. You have met her before, not in a memory, but in the silence between two betrayals. She is not what you desire. She is what your desire disguises. You know her by the way your voice trembles when you try to be kind. You know her by the stillness she invokes in you, that terrible stillness that feels like drowning. She is not impressed by your light. She drags her fingernails through your shadow. She is not afraid of what you hide. She is what you hide it from. She does not want to be saved. She wants to know if you will look into her and stay. She does not love the man who pleases her. She fears the man who sees her without flinching. She watches you from behind every smile you've earned, not with admiration, but calculation, not because she hopes you are good, but because she wonders if you are real. The man who flatters her dies quietly in her sleep. The one who fears her is buried under her laughter. But the one who sees her fully, without desire, without shame, that man she cannot erase, that man she cannot own. And so, she must test him, not to hurt him, but to verify if his presence is a mask or a myth. You think you're choosing her. You aren't. You're being summoned, not to possess her, but to confront her, the part of you that bleeds when it loves, the part that bites when it doubts. She does not want to be understood. She wants to know if you can stand still while her chaos strips you bare, if your silence is genuine or rehearsed, if your strength is rooted or borrowed. You keep trying to impress her with light, but light is what she learned to mimic. It's darkness she never mastered, and that is where she watches you from. You try to make her laugh, thinking that will calm the unknown. You give, thinking that earns her trust. You apologize, thinking it soothes her fears. But her fear is not of you. Her fear is of what you might reveal about her, and your apologies confirm it. She sees the tremor in your eyes, the need behind your praise. She tests you, and when you flinch, she is comforted, because now she knows you are not the mirror. You are only glass, and glass can be shattered. She pretends to be confused, to need clarity, but that's a game she plays when she already knows your answer. The only question she cares about is this: will you betray yourself for her affection? Will you abandon your edge to gain her softness? If so, you've already failed. Because she's not looking for affection. She's not looking for safety. She's looking for a man whose soul has touched its own abyss and returned with nothing to prove. The man who doesn't need her love to be whole, and who, by not needing it, is the only one she could give it to. You think she wants stability. She doesn't. She wants to know if your stillness is real or if it's just fear dressed as composure. She leans close not to be held, but to hear if your silence is empty or holy. She watches not how you speak, but how you breathe when she withdraws. The one who chases her confirms her power. The one who ignores her confirms her trauma. But the one who stays unmoved, unshaken, unafraid, he makes her question everything she believed about herself. You call her complicated, but what you mean is you don't know how to stand in the fire she carries without burning into your old shape. You call her emotional, but what you mean is her depth makes your rehearsed lightness look like mockery. You call her moody, but what you mean is you do not yet understand how her inner tide responds to the unmoved object. The ocean has no loyalty to the swimmer. She only respects the one who surrenders not in weakness, but in presence. She doesn't want to be everything to you. That is the lie men give to women who've never been truly seen. She wants to be looked at completely, not for her beauty, but for her ruin. The place where no man has dared to rest. Not to fix, not to claim, not to elevate, but to dwell. Because there is something beneath her shame that even she has not named. And until you stop trying to rescue her from herself, you'll never meet the woman beneath the girl. She is not testing your patience. She is revealing your programming, the performance you learn to avoid rejection, the smile you wear when you're afraid to say no, the calm you project when you're secretly begging to be accepted. She sees it all. And when she speaks sharp, when she retreats, when she wounds you with a truth too precise to be random, it's not cruelty, it's recognition. She sees the places in you that still fear the mother's withdrawal. And she gives you the gift of reenactment to see if you'll play the boy again, or rise as the man. You think you've been rejected when she grows cold, but what you don't see is that she's watching you even more closely now, to see if your presence was only performance, to see if your power crumbles when her warmth is gone, because the real man does not vanish when the feminine disappears. He does not beg, he does not lecture, he does not self-soothe with logic. He remains, not to wait, not to prove, but because he has found something deeper than her presence himself. You will not be rewarded for passing her tests, because this is not a school, and she is not a teacher. This is ritual, archetypal, beyond reason. She is not asking you to earn her love. She is asking if your essence can survive contact with hers. Because to her, that is what love is: not devotion, not attraction, but fusion at the edge of identity. And the man who dissolves too easily was never there to begin with. She does not long for softness. She longs for a container that doesn't collapse. She longs for a temple that does not shake in her storm. The man who crumbles at her anger was never strong enough to carry her truth. The man who retreats into logic when she becomes paradoxical has not yet tasted madness, the divine kind. The man who says, "I just want peace," is already lost, because peace is not what she brings. She brings the mirror, and only those who can see without flinching, without correcting, are worthy of what lies beyond it. So you try to fix her, hoping it will end the tests. But you've misunderstood her entirely. She doesn't want solutions. She wants submission, not of your will, but of your illusion. The surrender of your boyhood roles, the death of your savior mask. She wants to know what you are when you are no longer trying to be good, when you are no longer trying to win, when you are no longer trying to become. Because that still presence beneath ambition is the only thing that has ever touched her. And when she finds it, if she finds it, she will not thank you. She will not melt into your arms. She will not confess her love. She will vanish. Because the feminine does not reward the masculine with praise. She rewards him with transformation, and transformation is always marked by disappearance. The fire goes out. The storm passes. The woman you knew fades, and in her place, perhaps, comes silence. A new presence, hers, yours, both. Not fused, not dependent, not explained, but known. She tests not your love, but whether your soul is possessed or merely performed. She does not seduce with her body. That is only the bait. The real seduction begins when she sees that your eyes follow her, not from hunger, but from recognition. Not desire, but memory. A memory older than you, older than her. One she cannot name. She leans closer, not to offer herself, but to listen. To see if your voice carries the scent of myth. To see if you speak from a throne or a script. If your fingers tremble when they touch her shoulder, she knows you have not yet touched yourself. If your lips praise her beauty, she hears your fear of what lies beneath it. She knows what you want. She wants to know if you are still pretending not to. She can sense it in the silence between your sentences, whether your stillness is born of possession or repression, whether your composure is earned or borrowed from books, from podcasts, from other men who also feared the edge. She knows the difference. She always knows. She pretends not to. She plays along, lets you take the lead, lets you feel powerful, but only to watch what you do when she stops mirroring you. Do you lose your rhythm? Do you falter when her smile fades? Do you grow louder to fill the space where her laughter once lived? If so, she knows you are not possessed. You are performed. A man who is possessed by his soul does not lose himself in the void of another. He does not crave reaction to verify his power. He does not sculpt his voice for approval, nor shape his gaze to please. He is not waiting to be chosen. He already is. And that is what frightens her. That is what she yearns for and resists, because a man like that cannot be controlled. And she has never met one she could not tame. Until now. So she tests you, not out of malice, but instinct. She withdraws. She interrupts. She contradicts her own words. She says yes, then no. She says she wants honesty, then punishes it. She says she wants depth, then drowns you in shallow demands. But all of it, every twist of her voice, every edge of her glance, is a single question wearing different masks. Are you acting or are you real? She is not interested in your kindness if it's conditional. She is not interested in your power if it collapses under pressure. She wants to know if your spine bends when her storm begins. She wants to know if you become the boy again, the one who needed the mother's warmth to feel whole, or if you become the flame that cannot be touched. When she accuses, do you defend when she doubts? Do you explain when she cries? Do you flee into logic when she rages? Do you flinch? If you do, she knows you are only managing the moment. You are not grounded in anything larger than her mood. And if she can shake your world with a single sentence, how will you carry the world when it collapses for real? She does not trust ease. She trusts intensity. Not loudness, not force, but the intensity of a man who has died before and come back wordless. A man who has bled where no one saw and made peace without a witness. A man who does not need her wounds to feel heroic, who does not need her submission to feel strong, who does not need her admiration to feel seen. And so, she touches where you're softest, not with fingers but with presence. She sees where your voice changes when challenged. She sees the pause in your eyes when she looks too long. She sees how quickly you try to soothe what was never yours to fix. And in that seeing, she does not speak. She waits. Because the true test is not how you react to her passion. It is how you remain when her mirror reflects your fraudulence. She has met many men, the poets, the prophets, the providers, the lovers who could undress her body, but not her myth, the thinkers who could articulate her soul, but not feel it, the performers who rehearsed their masculinity until it snapped under pressure. She has smiled at all of them. She has slept beside some. She has thanked many. But she has never surrendered to one who needed her surrender to feel real. And yet, when she meets the one who does not need her at all, that is the man who unravels her, not by force, not by persuasion, but by being the one thing she has never seen a man who contains his own storm, who does not fear hers, who lets her rage without losing form, who lets her seduce without being moved, who sees her cruelty as a question, not a threat, and answers it not with apology, but with presence. You thought seduction was about attraction, but her true seduction is a ritual, an initiation, and you are not being invited in, you are being invited down, into her underworld, into her chaos, into the place where she hides the parts of herself even she is afraid of. And if you flinch, if you hesitate, if you demand clarity, you will never return with anything worth carrying. Because this is not about getting her, this is about losing you. The parts of you that perform, that charm, that calculate, the parts of you that posture, the parts of you that believe love is earned by shaping yourself into what she wants. She doesn't want that. She wants the man who has nothing left to prove, nothing left to hide, nothing left to win. Because that man, and only that man, can walk beside her without being swallowed. She has waited lifetimes for him. The feminine does not complete you. She reveals where you were already split. She is not the destination. She is the detour that exposes the weakness of your map. She is not the healing. She is the hand that rips the bandage from your oldest wound and whispers, "This is still bleeding." You thought she would soothe your ache, but instead, she names it. You thought she would make you whole, but instead, she shows you how fractured you've always been. She is not cruel, she is precise. The feminine is not chaos. The feminine is the mirror through which your chaos becomes undeniable. She is not confused. You are... Because you believed in the illusion of arrival, that love would settle the dust, that presence would end the hunger, that union would finally silence the gnawing. But the woman who carries her own archetype does not soothe, she awakens, and what she awakens is not gentle. It is the wound you built your manhood around. The first rejection, the first silence, the first time you cried and no one came. She walks into that place without knocking. She traces the outline of your strength and sees where it was carved from fear. She kisses your ambition and tastes the boy who was never held. She rests her head on your chest and hears the echo of all the apologies you rehearsed but never voiced. She does not want your protection. She wants to know if your protection is genuine or simply armor you wear to avoid being pierced. She pierces anyway. She brings out not the lover in you, but the orphan. And the orphan does not want to be seen. The orphan wants to be praised. The orphan wants to be the hero, the savior, the provider. The orphan wants to be useful because usefulness earns affection. But she does not need your usefulness. She needs your absence to vanish. She needs to know if you are still chasing the mother you never pleased, still proving yourself to the father who was never watching. If you are, she will leave. Or worse, she will stay and play the role you silently asked for. She will become the one who makes you feel needed, admired, adored. But it will never be real. Because beneath your confidence, she still feels the wound twitch. She still sees the shadow flinch. She still knows you're more invested in being enough than being true. And she did not come for performance. She came for presence. But presence is costly. Presence means death. The death of your masks, your missions, your mythology. The death of the idea that your masculinity must be proven. The death of the belief that her surrender is your reward. It isn't. She surrenders only to the man who has surrendered first, not to her, but to himself, to his own terror, to his own grief, to the part of him that would rather dominate than be seen. You will be tempted to flee, to label her unstable, to call her too much, to find a quieter woman, a gentler mirror, a softer fire. But the fire is not hers. It is yours. She is only holding it close enough to show you where you still burn. And if you run, you will find her again. Different face, different name. Same question, have you finally looked where it hurts most? She is not here to validate your worth. She is here to watch what you do when it's stripped from you. When she turns cold, when she becomes silent, when she stops needing. Do you collapse? Do you lash out? Do you beg, bargain, retreat into rationality, or do you stand naked, unarmed, and whole? Because only then is she safe. Not because you protect her, but because you no longer ask her to protect your image. She wants to be with a man who is already initiated, not by gurus, not by books, not by other women, but by the darkness itself. The man who has sat with his own madness long enough to stop apologizing for it. The man who no longer needs to be understood. The man who can hold contradiction in one hand and silence in the other, and still not lose his center. Because that man will not use her pain to avoid his own. That man will not confuse her surrender with safety. That man will not mistake her wounds for weapons. He will see her not as salvation, not as threat, but as mirror. And she will either shatter or remain. But that choice is no longer yours. You were never meant to complete her. You were meant to meet her, not the woman she shows the world, the real one. The one buried under years of performing softness for fragile men. The one who has screamed into pillows while smiling at dinner. The one who has punished herself for being too much, too emotional, too demanding, too aware. She is hidden behind roles because no one ever stayed when she dropped them. Until now. If you are real, if you can stay, if you can see the wound and not flinch, not fix, not flee, but breathe, then maybe the feminine will rest. Not because she is tired, but because, for the first time, she is finally met. Not claimed, met. And in that meeting, the game ends. The tests dissolve, the masks fall. Because the man who owns his shadow needs nothing, and therefore can be given everything. No longer begging for her love, no longer reacting to a storm, no longer chasing the echo of a mother's absence, but standing in the fire not to survive, to become. She will not wave goodbye. There is no closing scene, only the weight of her absence, echoing louder than her presence ever could. You may hear her voice in the laughter of strangers, in the pause before you speak, in the eyes of the next woman who looks too deeply, too soon. But she is not coming back, because she was never a woman. She was the wound, the ritual, the gatekeeper of the place you feared most, your own unlit self. And now you stand alone, not because you lost her, but because you were meant to lose the illusion, the pursuit, the savior. What remains is not peace. It is stillness haunted, honest, whole. You are not healed, you are not forgiven. You are simply here. And she is watching from the mirror, waiting for your next betrayal of yourself,